In Psalm 23, verse number 4, we know the 23rd Psalm is just a wonderful psalm. A lot of people know it by heart. It's David's proclamation on a shepherd and what the shepherd does for the sheep. But in verse number 4, he says, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me." Now, we all know that life has a way of leading us through valleys. All of us have gone through them. We don't always know how we end up there, but we don't always see the path out either. Sometimes the shadows in those valleys can seem overwhelming. They're dark, they're looming, they're full of unknowns and uncertainties, and that's one thing that plagues people a lot of times is the fear of the unknown. But what David writes here in Psalm 23 is very beautiful because he reminds us of a very powerful truth, and that's even in the darkest valleys, even in the presence of shadows, we are never alone. We have our shepherd, the Lord Jesus Christ, with us. So let's break this down this morning and just take a deep breath and just take a fresh look at this particular verse in the 23rd Psalm. David didn't say here, if you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, or there's a chance or possibility that you might walk through the valley of the shadow of death. No, he says, though I walk. The word though tells us something very important because valleys are just a part of life. Dark places, uncertain seasons, difficult paths, they happen to everyone, even the kings and even the shepherds, and even to you and I. But here's the heart of this verse. Just because you're in a dark place doesn't mean you're on the wrong path. Let that sink in this morning, because I want to tell you that again. Just because you seem like you're in a dark place, it doesn't necessarily mean you're on the wrong path. Because the presence of shadows doesn't mean the absence of God's guidance. Many of us, we think that if we're following God, life should be clear, peaceful, full of light, full of certainty in our lives. But David, a man after God's own heart, he knew something even deeper than that. He knew that the right path isn't always the easiest path. And sometimes God leads us through the valleys, not around them. And sometimes it's in that valley that we actually come to truly feel His presence even more. Here's the thing about shadows. They are not real. A shadow is an image, a dark outline cast by something that is real. But the shadow itself, it's not real. That means it can't touch you, it can't hurt you. It's just a distortion of something else. And yet, how often do we fear the shadows? We fear what might happen. We fear the unknown. We fear failure without ever even starting to begin with. We feel rejection. We feel illness. We feel loss. All the things that our minds can imagine in the dark places, we begin to fear them even though they're not even real. But David teaches us something powerful. Do not fear what does not exist. Let me say that again. Do not fear what does not even exist. The valley of the shadow of death is just that. It's a shadow. It's not death. It's not evil. It's a place where those things seem near. But David declares, I will fear no evil. Why? Because thou art with me. In the valley, it's not the darkness we need to focus on. It's God's presence. See, His rod and His staff, they symbolize the shepherd's care, guidance, and protection are always with us. They bring us comfort, not because the path is easy, but because we are never abandoned while we're on that path. I want you to think about this for a minute. Shadows only exist because there's light. Without light, there is no shadow. So when you see a shadow, even a dark and fearful one, it's proof that light is still present, even in the shadows. God's light still shines, even when we feel surrounded by darkness. And that light is a promise that we are never alone. So what do we do when we walk through our own personal valleys, when fear grips us, when the shadows feel heavy? We trust the shepherd. Why? Because he knows the way. He's walked every path before us. He leads us, not to leave us in the valley, but to bring us through the valley. Notice that David says, walk through. The valley is not your home. You were never born to live in the valley. It's not your final destination. It's part of your journey. Not the end of your journey, part of your journey. God doesn't intend for you to stay there forever. He's walking you through to the other side. Let's talk real for just a moment. Maybe you're facing a tough season right now. Maybe the job you thought would bring you so much joy and peace has actually now become a burden. Maybe your health is not the best right now. Maybe some relationships in your life are strained. Or your future just seems clouded with shadows. It's easy to wonder, where is God in all this? But watch Psalm 23:4, because it reminds you He's right there with you, right in the middle of it, walking with you step by step. See, fear wants you to forget that. I want you to listen to this very closely this morning, because this is inspired by the Lord. Fear magnifies the shadow and hides the shepherd, but faith does the opposite of that. Faith magnifies the shepherd and shrinks down the shadows. So let your faith rise today. Declare with David, I will fear no evil. Not because evil doesn't exist, but because God is bigger than the shadows. His presence is stronger than any darkness, even in the valley. One last thought this morning before I leave and we end this devotion. Don't rush through the valleys. That may sound strange to you, but sometimes it's in those valleys that God does His deepest work. In the valley, we learn to trust, to listen, to lean on the shepherd. We grow there. We are refined there. And when we emerge on the other side, we know God is there, and we can trust Him in every step of the way. And we would have never known Him that deeply if we had missed the valley. Lord's will, we'll see you back here again tomorrow. And until then, you be safe, you be strong, and you be blessed. And you walk with the Lord today, even in the valley. Have a great day.